Round 4 of the A-League Men's. Here are our predictions for the upcoming weekend. All 6 matches this weekend. Auckland FC have a bye, and it's been an incredible start for Auckland FC. 3 wins, 3 clean sheets. They get the break before the international break next weekend, and then unite round the week after that. So, kicking us off on Friday evening, we have Western Sydney Wanderers hosting Newcastle Jets. Now, this is a very, very important game for Western Sydney Wanderers. Obviously, we know that Wanderers have made a pretty underwhelming start to this season, just 1 point from 9 games, and incredibly haven't won a home game since New Year's Day. Halfway through last season, it's such a long stretch for a big club like Western Sydney Wanderers. This is a big game here for Western Sydney Wanderers. Now, 4 games into the competition, coming up against a Newcastle Jets team who had the bye last week, but we remember a couple of weeks ago, defeated Macarthur 2-1. They lost round 1, 1-0 against Melbourne City. We'll have to wait and see what kind of Newcastle Jets we get on this occasion, but there's no doubt that Newcastle Jets are capable of winning this game. We saw the way that Eli Adams had a fantastic impact in that second half against Macarthur a couple of weeks ago. The same thing happens here. Wanderers could easily capitulate in this game once again. So Western Sydney have to make a strong start to this game. Get the likes of Borrello involved, who's been very, very good for the first couple of games. Juan Mata, can they find a way to get him more involved in the game as well, creating opportunities for the likes of Borrello and Milanovic and Kraev in those wide positions as well. So for me, it is all about sort of the start for Western Sydney Wanderers. We saw what happened last time against Adelaide United, who made a really bright start and ended up going on to win 4-3 in the end. Wanderers need to tighten up in defence as well. Vidakovic obviously making some poor mistakes in that game, so maybe does Jordan Holmes come in as goalkeeper? We know Lawrence Thomas is still out with injury at the moment, so a bit of, question marks around the goalkeeping position at the moment at Western Sydney Wanderers. But look, a big chance for Newcastle Jets to grab a result here, especially if they can defend the way they did against Macarthur, especially in that second half where they really had to dig deep. Ryan Scott made a fantastic penalty save. That result would have given the Jets a huge amount of confidence. Now, their 3rd game of the season, they'll be eyeing off a result in this game. But for me, I'm going to tip another draw. I'm going to say another draw for Western Sydney Wanderers, and for Newcastle Jets, I think they'll take a point here away from Western Sydney, but it could be a fun game. Wanderers 2, Newcastle 2. Saturday afternoon, Melbourne Victory, the high-flying Melbourne Victory, who have now coming off 2 consecutive wins, and Brisbane Roar meeting at Amy Park. Brisbane Roar, 2 losses to start the season. They did show some promising signs, especially in the second half last week in that home loss to Sydney FC, but a really tough test here against a good Melbourne Victory side who were so good in the Melbourne Derby, and then last week defeating Macarthur FC 2-1. The likes of Renan Piscopo and Nikos Virgos are looking great at the moment. Ryan Teague's made a great start to this season, and defensively overall looking very, very solid Melbourne Victory. So, Brisbane Roar, do they have what it takes to grab a big, probably fair to say, an upset win here against Melbourne Victory? They certainly have the firepower to do it. I think Tom Waddingham, he had a great game last week with a goal and an assist. Raphael Strike as well, coming off the bench and scoring. He provides something different, again, if he comes off the bench in this game. Defensively, just have to tighten up in that area of the park as well. They played with a couple different centre-back partnerships in their first couple of games, so we'll see what Ruben Zakovic goes for in this contest as well. But while Melbourne Victory, I think, are, probably favourites for this game, Brisbane Roar certainly do have a chance to snatch a result here. I think given the exciting young players they have, especially in attack, we certainly could see them hurt Melbourne Victory on occasion in this game. But I think Melbourne Victory will once again dominate this contest. They made a great start to the season. Patrick Isnorbo's side looking very well organised and very, very dangerous going forward, especially considering that, again, we talk about it so much, but on the bench, they're able to bring off, Daniel Arzani, Jing Reese, and, Bruno Fornaroli wasn't even involved in the matchday squad last week. So such a strong team with great depth should get the result once again at home here. 3 consecutive wins would be massive for Melbourne Victory. And I'm going to go for another win here. I'm going to go 3-1 for Patrick Isnorbo's side. Next up, we have the Battle of the United. Adelaide United, Western United. The Reds have made a pretty good start to the season. That 1-1 draw against Mariners at home, and then the 4-3 win against Western Sydney Wanderers. Big result for Adelaide to give them a big confidence boost early on in the season. Western United have shown some decent signs over their first 3 games. 1-1 draw against Wellington Phoenix, 1-1 draw against Western Sydney Wanderers, and then that 1-0 loss to Melbourne City. It might just take some time to sort of connect the dots sort of up top in that final third. There's no doubt they have some decent players in that final third, especially look at Hiroshi Basuki leading the line. He's coming up against his former team in this game, so that's certainly one to keep an eye on. Hiroshi Basuki, who was so good at the Reds over the last few years. And it'll be interesting to see what sort of reception Hiroshi Basuki receives from the Adelaide faithful. But for Adelaide United, despite still missing a few players due to injury, they've looked really good so far. Dylan Perea scoring a couple of goals from right back in their last game. Jovanovic has already grabbed a couple of goals this season. Sort of that front four is really exciting. Stefan Mork, Austin Ayubi. They've got Zach Clough, who's playing off that right-hand side as well. Ben Falami and Archie Goodwin, who can come off the bench as well. A really formidable attacking team who I think will certainly create a lot of headaches for the Western United defence in this game. And I think the Reds at home will have too much. Once again, I'm going to go 2-1 to Adelaide United. And then we've got 3 games on Sunday. It kicks off with Central Coast Mariners hosting Wellington Phoenix. This is going to be a big one. Obviously, these two teams finished at the top of the A-League men's ladder last season. Played some really, really intense matches, some tightly contested games. So how does this one pan out? Obviously, Wellington Phoenix hugely disappointed coming off that home derby defeat to Auckland last week. Mariners really frustrated with recent results. Obviously, 3 consecutive draws in the A-League season. Did really well midweek to come back from 2 goals down to draw 2-2 with Shanghai Shenhua in the Asian Champions League Elite. So that will give them a bit of confidence. Big concern for Mariners. Brad Tapp ruled out with an ACL injury. Huge blow for Central Coast Mariners. So we imagine Deasley Harrington will start this game for his starting A-League debut. And again, it'll be interesting to see what Mark Jackson decides to do going forward, whether it is Kowal or Edmondson who leads the line. You've got some other options there in Sabit Nyor, Brandman, Macarthur, and Vitor Feijão as well. So a good sort of collection of attacking players there that Mark Jackson has to choose from, and he has been shuffling around those players in the starting 11 over the last couple months, that's for sure. Despite not getting the wins, I've been pretty happy with how the Mariners have actually been performing in these games. We've shown some really good signs, just been missing sort of that final pass, that final effort on goal to get us the win in the end. We were so close against Perth. Glory had a penalty that was rubbed out in the end. And Mariners will really have to make sure they take their opportunities in this game against a very good and a very well-organised Wellington Phoenix team, who will obviously be super eager to bounce back here and get a result after that derby loss last week. Wellington Phoenix, look, they weren't bad in that game. They really got caught out at the back. They were playing out from the back, and that's maybe an area that Mariners could look to exploit in this game. Josh Oluwayemi getting caught out for that first goal in the New Zealand derby last week. So Wellington Phoenix, though, when they are on the ball, when they are going forward, they are so dangerous. The way their wing backs get so high up the pitch, especially in defence, they're so well organised, dropping into that back 5 also. So a really well-disciplined team. And as mentioned, Mariners and Wellington played some incredible battles last season. And this almost was going to be the A-League Grand Final from last year. Mariners, though, I think this is the game where we do finally get our first win. It will be a close one. I don't think there'll be too much in it. Again, if we just look at last season's games, the matchups were so tight between the two teams. But I think there'll be 1 goal in it. I'm going to go Mariners 1-0 in the end. It might be a late winner. Next up, Sydney FC, Macarthur FC. 2 Sydney clubs going head-to-head. You got Sydney FC, the oldest A-League club in the Sydney area, and then Macarthur FC, obviously the newest team in the Sydney area. Sydney FC, obviously, really impressive in this season so far, grabbing that 3-2 win against Brisbane last week, an important result considering they lost the week before against Auckland. And for Macarthur FC, it's been sort of a funny season so far. Obviously, they were so good in pre-season, winning the Australia Cup at 6-1 winning against Perth Glory. But 2 back-to-back losses. A little bit of an interesting moment here for Milos Stojanski to see how he goes, settling the team and getting them ready for this huge game against a Sydney FC team who are one of the top teams in the competition. They've been playing so well. They've had a busy schedule, obviously juggling the Asian Champions League 2 as well. But you look at this team, man. I mean, some of these players are having incredible seasons already so far. Hayden Matthews at the back has been one of the best central defenders in the league so far. Leo Senna has been absolutely incredible, bossing it in midfield for Sydney FC. Question marks in terms of whether we'll see Douglas Costa or Joe Lolly involved in this game. They both missed out last week against Brisbane. They also missed out in the midweek game against Sanfrecce Hiroshima. So whether they're able to return, we'll have to keep an eye on that one. But again, we've been talking about those young guys who can easily step in and fill the void there, especially with the likes of Adrian Segacic and Jaden Kaczowski, who can come on and make an impact as they did in that Brisbane game last week. Macarthur FC, though, they've shown us on numerous occasions already this season that they are a real threat going forward, especially when they're going forward with a bit of confidence. So dangerous on the counter-attack. You look at those wide positions, Jedru off the right, Marin Yakalish, who's been incredible off that left-hand side, and Valerie Germain will always take an opportunity if he gets it. But Macarthur Macarthur FC will obviously be looking back to that elimination final loss from the final series last year. Sydney FC scoring 4 past Macarthur FC in that elimination final. Macarthur FC need to respond in this game. But the Sky Blues' first home game, which you mentioned as well, at Allianz Stadium. And I think the Sky Blues do win this game. Macarthur FC, they will be a threat. The Sky Blues, I think, will have enough in the end. I'm going to go 3-2 though. Could be a really entertaining watch. And the final game of the round sees Perth Glory host Melbourne City. Melbourne City, an interesting one considering that Melbourne Derby lost a couple weeks ago, but either side of that result, 2 wins, 2 1-0 wins. The big concern for Melbourne City though this week has been the injury blows to Andrew Naboot and Macarthur FC, who both went off injured in that 1-0 win against Western United on Monday evening. I mean, it'll be interesting to see who comes in to replace those guys. Good, big boost having Matt Leckie return to the setup, so we imagine he'll be heavily involved in this game. But you know, young striker Max Caputo is still out with injury, so it might be some more young guys coming in to fill the void left by Naboot and Tilio. And for Perth Glory, look, a big boost for them, a big confidence boost, getting their first point of the season last week against Central Coast Mariners away, and also keeping the clean sheet, especially considering that a couple of weeks ago they conceded 6 against Perth Glory. It's showing signs of improvement for Perth Glory. They're going to take the positives out of that game last week, and there is a chance that they do sort of take that momentum into this game and grab a big result against Melbourne City here. I think it's unlikely that Perth Glory do win this game. Melbourne City, they still have, you know, the quality to get the result here. I don't think City will necessarily dominate this game. Perth Glory, as we've been saying, despite that shocking round 1 result, with more games, as the new players sort of gel together, we know that they went through so much change through the off-season in regards to their team and their personnel. Once these players really sort of adopt, you know, David Drilich's style of play, you know, with more games under their belt, they could be a really formidable team, especially at home, Perth Glory. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Melbourne City. I think they will just have too much quality and class in the end, despite those injuries. But Perth Glory, they will continue to improve and they'll show some decent signs in this game, but I think a win for Melbourne City in this one. So there's my results for round 4 in the A-League Men's 2024-25 season. Feel free to drop your predictions in the comment section. Stay subscribed for more A-Leagues content, and of course we've got the Socceroos coming up next week as well. Make sure to hit the like button on the way out. My name's Lockie. This is Coast Switch Football, and I'll see you in the next one.